pleased to be here for Half Hour With on two shows from Netflix, Cat People and Dogs. And Jenelle Riley is my co-moderator representing the side of dogs, and I'm here representing the side of cats. So Jenelle, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and I am so thrilled to be here today. I want to introduce a couple of our guests. We have the executive producer of Dogs, Amy Berg, and also joining us as one of the subjects of one of my favorite episodes of season 2, Leland Melvin.
And I would like to introduce our guest, Glen who's the EP on Cat People and Dogs, and Moshow, the cat rapper.
I actually want to start with Amy because obviously you're an Oscar and Emmy nominee for your work on powerful documentaries like Deliver Us from Evil and the case against Adnan Syed. I would love to know how you came to be involved with dogs, which, might be considered more lighthearted material, but just as important.
Great, thanks, Jenelle. Well, about 5 years ago, I finished a film on Janis Joplin, which you can see in my background. And I had met Glen early days, like 10 years ago when we were starting to make this film. And when I finished the film, I remember I was walking down the street in New York and Glen called me and he said, I have this idea. Why don't we make this film about dogs? And why don't we make it the show that is everyone's favorite show, something that people walk away with and feel like this was the best thing I've ever seen. And it was a tall order, obviously, but I was so excited to work on something a little bit lighter, and I am a huge dog lover. And so I was really excited to get involved. And I had heard a story recently at that time about Syrian refugees and dogs that were being displaced and left in Damascus. And so I was excited about this opportunity to maybe bring two worlds together and enter worlds that you might not have immediate access to through dogs. So it became like a creative challenge and a very fulfilling project.
So then following up with that, Glen, I have a similar question for you. You produced documentaries for many years, had won Oscars, Emmys, most recently executive produced a doc series on Netflix about Challenger, The Final Flight. And you have a doc coming up, I love this, about 4 Seasons Total Landscaping, which is the place, of course, that Giuliani did that crazy press conference thinking he had booked the Four Seasons Hotel. So knowing your background in docs, just like with Amy, what was it that first gave you the idea?
The inspiration for me was my dog. And it's sort of a famous story now that I used to be a criminal prosecutor. I wasn't always a producer. And I came across a stray pit bull puppy on the street, which then took me to an animal shelter. And I think within 3 days, I had turned in my badge and was volunteering at the animal shelter. Because once I saw what was going on there, I felt like I needed to do something to help. And after about 6 months of doing that, for the first time in my adult life, I was actually happy because I felt like I was making a difference in the world. And once I reached that state, I said, well, I want to feel this way for the rest of my life. I'm going to do what I always really want to do, which is tell stories. And I came out here to Hollywood and through some hard work and a lot of luck, found some success. And when I had enough cachet to actually pitch a show that I really wanted to make, dogs was right at the top of the list, and working with Amy was right at the top of the list, and we were off to the races.
So I'm going to take that as you're a dog person. Even though you said both.
Objection.
And one of my favorite episodes of the new season of Dog involves you, Leland, and you've had so many lives. You were a football player, you're an astronaut, you work at NASA, and you have these two beautiful dogs, Zorro and Rue, who gained a lot of notoriety when you brought them into your astronaut photo. And everyone just fell in love with you and fell in love with them. And in your episode of Dogs, it chronicles your journey to climb a 14,000-foot mountain and pay tribute to your friends, astronauts who were lost on a mission. What made you not only want to take that journey, but bring the dogs along?
Well, it's really important to travel with your family. And sometimes your family is really your four-legged friends. And so I had gone through this, really challenging time back in 2003 when I lost my friends on Space Shuttle Columbia. And during that time, I had this rescue dog, Jake, who went with me on this journey to Colorado to honor my friends at the top of this mountain. And we didn't make it because of weather and different things. So when I got, Jake and Scout, my other dog, have both passed since then. So about 4 years ago, I rescued 2 new Rhodesian Ridgebacks, Zorro and Rue. And we wanted to recreate that journey. I'd watched Dogs season 1. I was just so excited about, these animals helping people recover, do better, feel good. And so this was a way that I could reconnect with my friends and honor their legacy and take my 2 rescue dogs to the top of a mountain again.
What a story. I watched that episode, Leland, and I have to tell you, it's pretty remarkable. But now I'd like to introduce to everybody Moshow, the cat rapper. So he might not have been a professional football player or an astronaut, but he is, without question, the internet sensation. And he's the dad to 5 cats. And when I first met Moshow through Facebook, it was just by accident. You know, I'm always looking, I have cats, so I was always looking for content. And the thing about Moshow, I think that's so amazing, and he's in the first episode of Cat People, is not only does he interact with his cats in a very special way, but it's the way he interacts with his audience. You feel like you know him, his messages of positivity and love and honesty come through. You just feel like he's an old friend immediately. And so with that, Moshow, I want to ask you, similarly to Leland, is when did you first decide that this is something you wanted to do? And what was it about the internet that just you said, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance? Tell us how this journey really began.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the intro. That was awesome. Honestly, it comes from when I was born. I was born in the projects of Baltimore City. And I grew up in a very, very rough neighborhood. So music was kind of always my escape. It kind of took me into a different element, into a different environment. And I actually kind of felt safe because I could relate to a lot of the lyrics. I felt like a lot of artists before me were talking like to me because I was seeing the things that they were saying in the lyrics. So I've kind of always had the music in me. And fast forward to, I've always been making music. I've always had music. I've always loved to freestyle in these things. But as I gotten older, as you know, when you're younger, you try to do things to fit in. You want to fit in. You don't want to be made of fun of. You don't want to stand out at all. You know, you don't want to wear mismatched gloves because then that brings jokes, that brings people making fun of you. So I did a lot of things where I just kind of pretended or just talked about the things that I thought was cool so I could not be made fun of. And as I gotten older, I grew up with no animals. And when I got to college, I used to major in computer. I majored in computer science for my degree at York College of Pennsylvania. I met a cool cat lady there. She was in my theater class and she had a black cat named Queenie who would watch me study. We started dating later. Queenie would watch me study and program downstairs. And as the months went on, Queenie got closer and closer. And then one day I looked up, I was coding. I had a big coding program to do. I looked up and I looked down and Queenie was right in my lap. And I don't know what happened, but cat fever just kind of took over from there. And I was making music, but I just came to terms with myself and I looked myself in the mirror and I said, hey, I want to live a life. I want to be honest with myself. I love cat ladies. I love cats. This makes me happy. I'm not a gangster. I'm not any of these things. I am a lover. I'm not a fighter. I love cats. I love cat ladies. I'm about positivity. And I just figured, hey, you know what? I would be a lot more happier if I just rap about the things that I'm into. And I just started rapping about my life and the things that I was into. And I had no idea that it would take the world by storm. And I had no idea I would have a cat army 6 years later.
It's very similar to my story. I wasn't a dog person until a boyfriend of mine had these 2 crazy pit bulls. And, you know, I ended up staying with him much longer than I should have because I love those dogs so much. But one thing that is a little crazy about animals, they don't necessarily take direction the way humans do. And Amy, I'm curious, how do you get your subjects to cooperate? And have there been instances where they just wouldn't? You know, how do you work with that?
Well, there's always kind of a period of time where people are getting accustomed to the fact that there's, you know, 5 people in the room when they're talking to us, telling their stories. But I think it all comes down to patience. And I will say that dogs are a little bit easier to direct than humans. And I realized that when I was making this film. But it's because, you know, once they've got their person there, they're just, you know, they're just themselves. And we had a curved period with Jet, who was the dog that I documented in season 2, because he was a little bit he had a little bit of PTSD coming from Iraq to Boise, Idaho, and it took a little while for him to get used to the camera, but eventually he did. But how do we get people to open up? I mean, I think you just have to be yourself, and you hope that you connect with the person, and the camera becomes invisible as people get more familiar with each other.
That's true. So Glenn, along those lines, I have to ask you about the production value. I've watched both Dogs and Cat People, and they're like little mini films. And I'm impressed by that. I just wanted to ask you if you went the extra mile because you were trying to differentiate yourself from a lot of the educational things that you might see on Saturday or Sunday morning about animals, and if that was an intentional desire on your part.
100%. And that came from both Amy and I. One of the things that we said when we pitched this, I think we only pitched a couple places. Netflix took it Dogs off the table pretty quickly, but we said we wanted to differentiate it between what you see on Animal Planet, where it's something that might play well on a TikTok video or on Instagram, or something you would see on National Geographic, which is more scholarly and pedantic, telling us why dogs were evolved from wolves and why they wag their tails. We wanted these to play like films. These are films to us, and that's why we pair all these episodes with award-winning filmmakers. I think in season 1 of Dogs, every single director is either an Oscar winner, Oscar nominee, or an Emmy winner. And then we tried to do the same thing across season 2 of Dogs and into Cat People. So yeah, you're exactly right. We see these as premium documentary films.
It made me think, actually, talking about, directing animals, watching you in your episode, and you have such patience. You're traveling thousands of miles with these animals. You're caring for them. It kind of made me think that, like, you might have a lot of traits in common with being an astronaut, and the patience and, the kindness. Do you see some overlap in those jobs?
It's definitely an overlap, because if you rush things when you're trying to fly in space, that's when you make mistakes, and that's when tragic things happen. So, and also my first 2 dogs gave me a lot of patience, because Jake, he had some issues. He was very attached to me, and whenever someone came around me, he would let them pet him one time, and then he would go to bite. So I was always dealing with that anxiety about, is he going to bite someone? Is he going to bite a child? Will I lose my dog? Because when I was very young, I think I was about 5 years old, someone came in our front yard. We had this collie named King, and King was protective of us. And they came up and they were yelling and screaming, and King ran over and bit this person on the finger, broke the skin, and King was taken away and euthanized. And so I lost my dog because of that. So it's helped me become a better dog daddy, to make sure that they're taken care of, they're in the right space. People aren't trying to come in and do things to them. And so it's definitely helps me be a better astronaut, to be patient and make sure that everything is taken care of just right.
I believe we actually have a clip that, sort of shows you interacting with your dogs and how, patient and loving, and what a great relationship this is. So why don't we take a look?
When I did this in 2004, it's a little bit easier. A few years in between, a few pounds in between. The pups are doing great. Looks like they're helping me. They're inspiring me. In the morning, our plan is to get above the tree line and then go up on the spine of the mountain. So it's really dangerous. I'm a little nervous about trying to summit.
I think about summiting a mountain, the spine of a mountain, whereas I did fly in space. But in space, you have this, ship always wrapped around you, or you have your life support system in your suit. But, once you get up above the tree line and that spine of the mountain, you're on this precipice that you could go either way very quickly, and not a good day. But I just want to say one other thing. Moshow, I was talking to Mae Jemison, the first African-American female astronaut. She's a cat lady. And
That's awesome.
We had this discussion on, are cats or dogs cooler? And she was trying to convince me that, cats are cooler. So she's really cool. I'm sure she would be totally down with your program.
I think me and her would
doing,
vibe
so.
for some reason.
Oh, I think so too.
Maybe, I don't know.
Isn't it right, Glenn, at the beginning of Cat People, you have great photos and you have like Ruth Bader Ginsburg with her cat and all these cool people with their cats, right?
That's right. I mean, we love the opening title sequence from Cats. I think it's absolutely going to tickle some people. And it was hard getting some of those images and then CGIing them. And essentially it's working cats into famous moments in popular culture. We actually had one with Bruce Willis in the air duct in Die Hard with a cat next to him, and we couldn't clear that one. So if you ever see me out on the street, I have it on my phone. I'll show it to you.
That is great. I love that. So Moshow, I got to go back to something we were talking about when you said you kind of owned your uniqueness, if you will,
Yes.
and that instead of just trying to fit in and all that, you just took a chance. So I have to ask you, because I think your outfits are incredible from top to bottom, and I must ask about your vest, your jewelry, your gloves, and your socks, your shoes. How did this come about? Was your wife part of this? And who's your costume designer?
Me, honestly, my outfits I think it's an insight or a little thought, and like it's an inside of my thought process, because my ideas and like with my books and my music, I think people are kind of seeing how my brain works a little bit, because I just like to wear, I don't like rules. I don't like to be constricted to things, like sometimes people say you can only wear white during a certain time of the season and stuff like that. And sometimes I just like this pair of shoes and I like that pair of shoes, and I just like to wear what I want. So it's honestly just me grabbing whatever I like that day and putting it on, and somehow people say that they love it, but it's never planned. It never matches. I don't care about colors or matching. My favorite color is pink, but I kind of just go in. If I want to wear that pink Vans today and those yellow Vans, I'll just put them both on and go about my day.
I love it. Well, let's take a look at a clip so that people can get a real sense of how this all comes together.
Okay. So I got 5 cats. They all have crazy personalities, and we're just one little cat family. Queen Sushi is like, I'm the queen. This is my place. There it is. You're starting to understand the whole Queen Sushi thing now, huh? Mega Man would always tell me, Dad, feed me cat treats. Oh, Dad, you just got in the house? Cool, cat treats. I think that's Mega. Black Savage, I think he would be like the person that's kind of like an introvert a little bit, and he would just be like, Dad, I love you, man. I think Lil Parmesan is like the super pretty girl. Oh, not cute, and then, you give her a pet, she's like, oh, but why? Like, don't touch me. DJ Ravioli is 100% obsessed with me. He's my rocks, my second heart, my other half. What you're witnessing is just straight up real love from me and my cats. We just have a undeniable bond.
Hey, one of the cats has made an appearance.
I got DJ Ravioli
That's
right
DJ
here.
Ravioli.
I can only imagine, so many things that could go wrong in any kind of filmmaking, but specifically they say never work with children or animals. You're working completely with animals. What did end up being the biggest challenge of the season for you?
Glad you chose the clip you did, because there was an actual weather challenge that we had. We were worried about so many different things, but we had no idea that the weather conditions were going to be what they were. So I think it'd be interesting to hear from Leland's perspective how that kind of switched things without giving too much away.
When you're trying to film something in the wild, the wild doesn't behave to the production schedule. And we were, going up this mountain, starting at 8,000 feet, got up to about 12,000 of the tree line. And the weather just went from 70 degrees to, minus 20. The winds got up to about 30 miles an hour. So I'm in this tent with 2, 100-pound Rhodesian Ridgebacks trying to pull them close to me to stay warm. Now, Zorro, he's He's right there. He's my shadow. I call him my shadow dog because he's wherever I am, he is. Rue is in the other room. So Zora was laying right beside me. Rue was like doing her own thing, had her own blanket. I'm like, come on, girl, you want to be beside me? I've got heat. You have heat. We have heat together. So, but the conditions just changed so quickly, Amy. And, you know, and I didn't want to, you know, I'm not going to give it away, but, you know, it was a challenge. And, you know, dogs, and these are short-haired dogs, you know, they're lion hunters in Africa, and they're up in Colorado in -degree weather. So they were getting a little cold, and it was just a big challenge. But we persevered and we kept going, and you know, it was. And also the other thing is connecting with people that had loss in their lives with the Columbia, and being able to come full circle to get through those challenging times and to get closure. I got closure, and even one of the family members of one of the crewmates that had passed got closure through this series. And so I think that's another thing that happens when you bring animals and people together. You get this love, you get this bond, and you get closure. And even like driving across the country, we bumped into people that you probably, maybe I wouldn't be talking to them. They would see the color of my skin, or just for whatever reason, they wouldn't speak to me maybe. But the dogs just arm them. You know, it brings this connection. And so you can solve problems, cross political boundaries, gender boundaries, race boundaries with these animals, because everybody wants to come and pet them.
Well, Moshow, it's similar to you, as I mentioned in the intro. I mean, certainly your 5 cats are all part of every show, but it's actually the message that's so important, and the music. And I think I'm curious to know if you've gotten letters and emails or texts or just communication on Twitch or whatever about this, because you're opening up a whole world and educating without people knowing it. For example, I remember that you had a TikTok video or something about black cats, and just trying to get rid of all those stupid stereotypes about black cats being whatever. And I think just the fact that you call that into the open is really great. So what kind of feedback have you gotten?
Oh, wow. Thanks for asking that. It's so bigger than me now. At first it was Moshow the cat rapper, but it's just so beyond that now. I do it for just so many other reasons. Being able to see people come up to me on the streets and say, "Hey man, I got a cat because of you," or "Hey brother, you're making it cool for the brothers to love cats." I have little kids that come to me that look like me and say, "Hey, you are making it cool for, you know, Black people, for brothers and sisters to love animals." It's been done before as far as people taking pictures with animals, but they tell me that I've done it on a scale where I've kind of broke the stereotype. People aren't used to seeing a lot of brothers and sisters with pets, and especially with cats. And just to break that mold and to have children want to love animals now, to have people want a black cat, to make black cats cool, and not to have them shown in the light how they're usually shown as them crossing your path and you having bad luck. To just be able to change a generation and to give some of my people encouragement to step out there and just show your love for the animals and show love for cats as well. It's just been really groundbreaking. And when I shot my music video, Adopt a Cat, I shot at the Oregon Humane Society, and to see 250 cats be adopted that week because I shot that music video, and to see all the black cats go, it's just been, it's just so much bigger than me. And I'm just very thankful that my work has been able to make people feel even more comfortable to show their love and to make it cool and accepting. We're breaking boundaries, and I'm just really happy that I can just be a part of it and show another side and break stereotypes. So I'm really thankful for that.
Moshow, you're trailblazing, man. You're trailblazing.
Yo, Leland, I appreciate you, man. I got a lot of respect for you, and thank you for that.
Likewise, brother.
So Glenn, can I follow up on just something that Jenelle was talking about earlier, which was, each episode of Cat People, I mean, Moshow's the first one, but each one is so different. And the one thing I have to just say that I admire you and your team is that the cats are never exploited for humor or for a joke. It just shows a glimpse into this world. And the same with dogs as well. And Leland's episode is, to me, just exemplifies that. But it's really to show the empathy and the relationship between humans and animals. But it's kind of a bigger message. Tell us a little bit about the series as a whole and some of the things people may see, and how in the world did you narrow it down to these few episodes?
It's hard, whether it's dogs or cat people. We look at a lot of stories, and it's, I'd say for every episode we do, I mean, we look at exponentially more, and I think we probably end up arguing over like 7 or 8 for every one that we do. And sometimes it gets pretty, we're all family, and it never gets too ugly, but we've gone at each other a bit about which ones that we think we'd be best served producing. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to, like, does this episode really speak to the bond between the animal and the human being? Because that's what both shows are really about. And if we don't see that at the center of the story, then that's a disqualifying factor. And the other thing that we always look for is a journey with a beginning and a middle and an end, with characters you're invested in, and there's stakes to that journey that are in some way paid off by the end of the story. As we were talking about earlier, we see these as films, so they need to have the components of a film, right? First act, second act, first act turn, second act, so on. And so not every story offers that. So there's like a lot of stories that we look at that have amazing dogs, have amazing cats in them, amazing human characters, but there isn't that journey, or there isn't that bond, or there aren't those stakes. So you'd be surprised once we narrow it down to focusing on those qualities, there really are only a handful that meet the test for a dogs episode or a cat people episode.
Amy, is that the same for you? It had to have that special bond between them that was the differentiator?
Yeah, I mean, season 1 was kind of just trial and error, because obviously it was the first time we did it, and we were so moved by all of the stories that we were telling, but also it was kind of the first time that all of us had done television. We were all documentary film feature people coming into this serialized world, and so there are different constraints in a doc series than making a film. You often have let's say 7 to 10 days to shoot it and a finite amount of time to edit it. So we were in season 1, we kind of learned exactly what we needed to look for season 2 to work. And I think it made the casting process even more challenging, because in season 1, we were just, we were so excited that we were making dog stories, and we already had Zeus. So we were like, we've got this in the can. Where can you go wrong after this? And then we kept finding incredible stories in that process, but it had to really, and we were also only making 4 episodes in season 2. So we had to be really careful about our casting, which is how we found Leland and Butler Blue, and my story, which is about Jet and Alana and Tara, as well as this amazing story about Father Joao in Brazil, which it's gonna leave you with tears in your eyes, in a good way, happy tears in your eyes. So yeah, it's definitely a different medium in a way, but I think that our show has kind of blended where we came from and where we're going in a kind of high quality way.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask Leland, because Zorro and Rue sort of found their own fame when you brought them into your astronaut photo. And, I know that you take them on speaking events and things like that. Were you surprised by people's response to the dogs, or is that just what they're like everywhere they go? Because if I saw you walking down the street with those dogs, I'd run over.
Well, I think that picture, I mean, that becoming iconic picture now, what you see in it is just so much love, and you see the future. I mean, I'm smiling, they're in it, we're holding paws and hands, and it gives you a glimpse of maybe what the future can be like. I mean, one day we'll be on Mars, one day we'll be living on the moon, and we're gonna have our pets. We're gonna have our cats with us. Moshow, you're gonna have your your cats up there floating around doing your thing. And I think it shows, as a civilization, as human beings, what we can do when we have all of our family together. What's possible. And so I think that's why that picture gets so many likes and goes viral and Reddit and all this stuff, because it shows what's possible as humans and animals together exploring.
This is Lenny, and if he cannot make you guys come and watch dogs, I don't know what else to offer, but I will consider offering a supervised date with Lenny.
Oh, well, I don't know how you're going to beat that, Moshow. But what's one thing that comes to mind that would get someone to tune in and watch Cat People?
Oh, it's gonna be Kitty Liddy. It's gonna be Cat-tastic. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be the cat's meow. So definitely tune in to Cat People. I'm telling you, it's going to be off the chain.
I love it. And then Leland?
It's all about the journey. Whatever we do in life, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And it's who goes along on the journey with you. So, hey, Z, come on, Z. He's taking a nap. He's getting ready for the journey, right?
Right.
And Ruth's over there sleeping. But just know that as you go along in life, with getting through pandemics, getting through whatever it is, you go along together with the people and the animals that take you to that next level.
So true. Glenn, we want to wrap it up for us?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest feelings in life for me was when you walk through the front door and your dog or your cat is waiting for you and they give you that greeting and the endorphins leave your brain and enter your bloodstream and you just feel euphoric for a moment. And whether it's me and Amy on dogs or the team on Cat People, we wanted to replicate that feeling with these shows. And we hope that when you watch them, you kind of have that same feeling. And I think if you show up, you will.
I just want to say, I don't know who shot what as far as like Dog People and Cat People, but Glen and Amy as well. I want to say, you guys really, everyone, y'all did something really rare. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Cat People especially are always shown as like very kooky and like silly and kind of like in this crazy light. And with you guys are like the first trailblazers too. I just want to say thank you for showing us in the normal way and not, you really presented us as normal people who love cats. And I just want to thank y'all for shooting it that way and not making it just really silly or, just reiterating the stereotypes. So thank you for the way how it was shot and, making it serious. We really appreciate that.
So guys, I want to thank everybody for watching today. Thank you for watching our half hour with Jenelle. Thanks for being the best co-moderator ever and representing the dog side of it.
Woof.
And thank you to Leland and Moshow and Glen and Amy for being here today. And thank you to our friends at Netflix for making this possible.